Hello folks, in this video I'm going to be adding a pull-pull system to Tony Ray's Tiger Moth, a kit that I've been building over the last few weeks. It's not necessary to go to this extent in terms of controlling the surfaces. There's a perfectly acceptable wiring tube provided for both the elevator and the rudder by Tony, and it works extremely well. It's a very positive setup. But I feel that the cabling system in the Tiger Moth is so iconic in terms of appearance that I wanted to include it in this model. It does create a lot more work, but you know, that's part of the fun. So why not get your favourite beverage in hand, sit yourself down and watch me fiddling about, making mistakes, but hopefully explaining how I'm going to approach fitting some clevises and the pull-pull system for this lovely model. Well, let's have a look at the tail area then. So the first thing is that the control horn won't be down here as it was designed in the plan. There you go, down there. I've even glued the block in because I'm not using the push rod system that was envisaged in the model. I'm going to try and make a more scale-like appearance and actually put in the outer control cables, the pull-pull cables. It's such an iconic look for me in the Tiger Moth that to leave them off, I think, would be sacrilege, quite honestly. And the location of the control horn is actually here. And what I need to do is cut a control hole out, and I'm going to use PCB board for that, and make a block to support the horn, because obviously there'll be stress on it here. So that's the first task. The other task I have to do is, this is a little bit vague the way it's been finished, and I've also followed the instructions, looked at the photograph, glued this piece on here, and it doesn't work, because actually if I zoom in I'll show you what I mean. On the plan it's shown in the correct position, I believe. On the photograph it's in this position. I may be wrong there, but basically it should be all the way down here. So I'm going to have to fill this part in here, to fare it in, and there also needs to be some sort of blending here between the fuselage and the tail. So they're little minor jobs. The other task revolves around the location of the horn for the elevator, and that is actually on the first rib here, not inboard here. It's actually on the first rib, and there needs to be a cable running over the top and one running underneath, and the one running over the top has a guide in this position that the cable runs through. It's actually attached to a bar that then runs through this guide, but I think I'll get away with just the cable running through the guide. And if we zoom out a little and I bring you round, tilt down, there's also a guide required here for the cable that runs to the rudder to stop it rubbing against the fuselage side. And I determined that by using a piece of steel and lining it up from the horn to where it's going to. And by doing that, I've hit on the correct location for the guide. I think I've actually got it wrong. I think it should be on this one here, but I'll double check that. And for that, I'm going to use the little horn locks that you have for servo arms, and I'll show you that as we get there. So they are the tasks that I have to do, and in addition, my pointer at the moment is going to be adapted to make the brace for the tail. Of course, all this will have to come back off when it comes to covering, as will the control lines, but I'm just going to get them rigged up roughly so I know where everything goes. So let's get cracking. First thing is going to be to cut out from this stuff, double-sided PCB board. I'm going to cut out the horns from that. It's basically fiberglass board. I'm going to cut out the horns, and then we'll think about how they're going to be used on the model itself. This is the mock-up that I've cut out of some lightweight ply, some scrap from the box, and I'm going to just get a pointer here to illustrate it. Here's the mock-up, or half of the horn that I'm going to make. You'll notice this is just out of some thin lightweight ply. This represents the thickness of the rib in the fin, and that will be glued in. This is the horn, and the distance from here to here is the same as the distance from, see if I can get it for you, from the outside hole there to the fulcrum point inside. That just helps with keeping the tension on the line, although as I'll describe in a moment, it's not as critical as you might think. So I'm going to cut this out of this fiberglass board. It's obviously easier to mock up using some lightweight wood than it is hacking this about. I think that's going to work. The angle is so that when it's hinged, when it's glued in, the hole here lines up with the hinge line. That's important so that you don't get differential throw on the rudder. There's Missy. Hello, Missy. What's the matter? Do you want to go out? We'll let her out and then I'll carry on. Come on then. Here's the tiller that's been made. I think you can see there that I've drilled 2 small holes through, and it's actually screwed onto this rib. And what I'm going to do now is on both sides box it in to provide some strength, but also to provide a surface for the covering to go to. And then I'll epoxy on the inside so this is a strong joint. That done, you can see there that the tiller is bent forward so it's in line with the hinge line, and I've produced a slightly modified pair to do the same for the elevator. So I'll get these all set up, then we'll put it onto the model and we'll jerry rig the rudder up, I think. The elevator is going to be a little bit more involved, and I'll chat about that too. Well, as you can see, I've got a little helper here. The weather's grim outside, so he's decided to step in and give a helping hand. Not. Okay, this is where we are with the control lines, or the mock-up of the control lines. I'm obviously just using cobbler's thread here. As you can see, the horns are in place. I'll actually just mount this on the stand and make it easier. Okay, so the horns have been installed and they've been blocked around there so that the covering can go on, and also to add some strength. Now, one thing that people have said to me when they've asked about setting these surfaces up is concern about the lines going slack. Well, there's a couple of things you can do to reduce that. Firstly, you need to accept that even wire trace will stretch over time. So you need some form of adjustment at some point in the setup to be able to take up that slack at a later date. Now, in the case of this model, when it comes to the rudder, I'm going to put a couple of clevises here so that I can adjust at this point if and when those lines go slack, and they probably will. In the case of the control horns here, I'll just move that up so you can see it. If I can get clevises small enough, I will fit them here and underneath, because that will allow some adjustment. However, if you keep the distance between the centre line here on the horn and the centre line on the pivots points, the ones that I showed if you look back at a video here, the same length, then you're less likely to have one line going slack and the other line going very tight. However, just to point a out that it's not as big an issue as some people may think. So if I bring the rudder around here, obviously everything's moving because nothing's glued down. If I bring the rudder around here, what you may find is this line will go tight, this pull line will go tight, and this line will go slack. Actually, that one's not very bad at all. But if it does, it's no big issue because the air pushing on this control surface as the model's flying stops any sort of movement in it. You've got a pull on here and you've got the weight of the air pushing on this control surface. So in a sense, it's not a big deal. When you set it up in the neutral position, you need to get the lines not over tight, but comfortably taut is how I would describe it. You don't need to go crazy trying to over tighten them. And the reason for doing this thread trial run is basically to make sure everything's going to work and in my head work out where the difficulties are going to be, but also to look at the runs. And you'll notice this one's gone very slack because of the way it's set up. This one's gone tight. Let's just... there. Now in the prototype, they have the same issue. This line rubs along the leading edge. So what you have on the prototype, and I'm going to put it on this, is a little guide that the line runs through. So I can see here where there is, and I can mark it on with a pencil where it needs to go. And I'll put a little block here and a loop for the line to go through. And likewise, if I zoom in a little, I might need to tilt it down. You can see that the line is rubbing here, and I've marked an area that I'm going to have to trim out here just so that it doesn't. And this will need some sort of block for the line to go through so that it runs neatly into the fuselage, and then they have a sort of cloth patch over the top of them anyway. The cables for the elevator are crossed. I find that helps with the tension, and what I mean by that, if we zoom back out, so those on this side go to the opposite side of the setup inside the fuselage and vice versa. If they rub against each other, it's not a big deal because the wire that I'm going to be using has a plastic coating on it and it doesn't snag. I'm going to use about £25, £30 line to do that, the same as I'll use for the rigging. I know that it's an extra faff, and I know there's a lot more. It's a lot easier to simply put the push rods in place and have the clevises underneath, but they're in the wrong position. And I think this is so iconic to the Tiger Moth design that it's a shame to miss it out. You don't need to do it. It's what you like, how much you like clarting about and messing about. Now, when it comes to fitting the actual wire trace itself, it can't be done until the covering's completed. And yes, that will involve a little bit of faff for the elevator. The rudder's no problem at all because it's all on the outside. There is another guide that needs to go here to stop the line from rubbing against the fuselage side. And I can see now where it's required, and I can mark that on with a little arrow. That's where I need to put it. You cover the model and you feed the line in from this side. You then have a piece of line dangling about inside the model. The seats come out so I can get my hand in to get a hold of it. I've glued in 2 small tubes as guides and I can feed them through. And yes, it'll be tight, but it is possible to get in there, and you basically put the loop of wire through, push it through the aluminium crimp that comes with the fishing line and nip it up tight. Once that's done, you're set. But it is awkward. I do accept that it is awkward to do, but that's the way you have to feed it in. And over time, as I said, the lines will go slack, so you do need a clevis of some kind to take up the slack. I hope you've been inspired and maybe have a go yourself at using the pull-pull system. I also use it on non-scale models. I've used it quite a lot on vintage models. I have it on the Matador that I have. It looks really cool that you've got these wires running on the outside. and I find it a very positive control system. Consider it anyway. It's worth having a look at, I think. If you've enjoyed this little short video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, why not subscribe? And I'll attach a playlist to this video, which will not only take you to the Tony Ray kit, but it'll also take you to some hints and tips on other techniques that I've picked up over the years. I don't claim them to be my own. However, I'm good at pilfering ideas from lots of people. I'm a bit like a magpie. What next? Well, there's a few tidy up jobs to do on this, and then I have to make a decision regarding the covering, how I'm going to cover it and what I'm going to cover it with. But I will have a sort of mini review of the kit itself, because covering is such an individual thing. It's not really anything to do with the model in the kit. And part of the deal is to sort of give feedback so that Tony Ray can build on it, and it can also inspire other people to have a go, I suppose. So I'll give a review of where I think the model stands out, what are the good points, and there are lots and lots of them, and a couple of little niggles that you can get round, and perhaps are things that Tony Ray could address in the future. I hope you have a good day flying, if you're lucky enough to do that. I'm not. The weather's lousy out there. I'm here with Sooty, me little helper. He's hiding behind the model there. And I'm going to keep on being creative. I hope you are too. Take care, folks.